assassination or robbery, all I can say is that if assassins were at work they ought to take some elementary lessons in anatomy before their next job, for they seem thoroughly ignorant. If robbery were their purpose, they seem to have worked with marvelous inefficiency. That, however, is not my business." Here he took a big pinch of snuff, and turning to Miss Trelawny, went on: "Now as to the patient. Leaving out the cause of his illness, all we can say at present is that he appears to be suffering from a marked attack of catalepsy. At present nothing can be done except to sustain his strength. The treatment of my friend Dr. Winchester is mainly such as I approve of, and I am confident that should any slight change arise he will be able to deal with it satisfactorily. It is an interesting case, most interesting, and should any new or abnormal development arise I shall be happy to come at any time. There is just one thing to which I wish to call your attention, and I put it to you, Miss Trelawny, directly, since it is your responsibility. Dr. Winchester informs me that you are not yourself free in the matter, but are bound by an instruction given by your father in case just such a condition of things should arise. I would strongly advise that the patient be removed to another room, or, as an alternative, that those mummies and all such things should be removed from his chamber. Why, it's enough to put any man into an abnormal condition, to have such an assemblage of horrors round him, and to breathe the atmosphere which they exhale. You have evidence already of how such mephitic odour may act. That nurse, Kennedy, I think you said, Doctor, isn't yet out of her state of catalepsy, and you, Mr. Ross, have, I am told, experienced something of the same effects. I know this." Here his eyebrows came down more than ever, and his mouth hardened. "If I were in charge here, I should insist on the patient having a different atmosphere, or I would throw up the case. Dr. Winchester already knows that I can only be again consulted on this condition being fulfilled. But I trust that you will see your way, as a good daughter to my mind should, to looking to your father's health and sanity, rather than to any whim of his, whether supported or not by a foregoing fear, or by any number of penny-dreadful mysteries. The day has hardly come yet, and I am glad to say, when the British Museum and St. Thomas's Hospital have exchanged their normal functions. Good day, Miss Trelawny. I earnestly hope that I may soon see your father restored. Remember that should you fulfill the elementary condition which I have laid down, I am at your service day or night. Good morning, Mr. Ross. I hope you will be able to report to me soon, Dr. Winchester." When he had gone, we stood silent, till the rumble of his carriage wheels died away. The first to speak was Dr. Winchester. "I think it well to say to my mind, speaking purely as a physician, he is quite right. I feel as if I could have assaulted him when he made it a condition of not giving up the case, but all the same he is right as to treatment. He does not understand that there is something odd about this special case, and he will not realize the knot that we are all tied up in by Mr. Trelawny's instructions. Of course—" He was interrupted by Miss Trelawny. "Dr. Winchester, do you too wish to give up the case, or are you willing to continue it under the conditions you know?" "Give it up! Less now than ever, Miss Trelawny. I shall never give it up, so long as life is left to him or any of us." She said nothing, but held out her hand, which he took warmly. "Now," said she, "if Sir James Frere is a type of the cult of specialists, I want no more of them. To start with, he does not seem to know any more than you do about my father's condition, and if he were 100th part as much interested in it as you are, he would not stand on such punctilio. Of course I am only too anxious about my poor father, And if I can see a way to meet either of Sir James Frere's conditions, I shall do so. I shall ask Mr. Marvin to come here today, and advise me as to the limit of Father's wishes. If he thinks I am free to act in any way on my own responsibility, I shall not hesitate to do so." Then Doctor Winchester took his leave. Miss Trelawny sat down and wrote a letter to Mr. Marvin, telling him of the state of affairs, and asking him to come and see her and to bring with him any papers which might throw any light on the subject. She sent the letter off with a carriage to bring back the solicitor. We waited with what patience we could for his coming. It is not a very long journey for oneself from Kensington Palace Gardens to Lincoln's Inn Fields, but it seemed endlessly long when waiting for someone else to take it. All things, however, are amenable to time. It was less than an hour all told when Mr. Marvin was with us. He recognized Miss Trelawny's impatience, and when he had learned sufficient of her father's illness, he said to her: "Whenever you are ready, I can go with you into particulars regarding your father's wishes." "Whenever you like," she said, with an evident ignorance of his meaning. "Why not now?" He looked at me, as to a fellow man of business, and stammered out: "We are not alone." "I have brought Mr. Ross here on purpose," she answered. "He knows so much at present that I want him to know more." The solicitor was a little disconcerted, a thing which those knowing him only in courts would hardly have believed. He answered, however, with some hesitation: "But, my dear young lady, your father's wishes. Confidence between father and child—" Here she interrupted him. There was a tinge of red in her pale cheeks as she did so. "Do you really think that applies to the present circumstances, Mr. Marvin? My father never told me anything of his affairs, and I can now, in this sad extremity, only learn his wishes through a gentleman who is a stranger to me, and of whom I never even heard till I got my father's letter, written to be shown to me only in extremity. Mr. Ross is a new friend, but he has all my confidence, and I should like him to be present. Unless, of course," she added, "such a thing is forbidden by my father. Oh, forgive me, Mr. Marvin, if I seem rude, but I have been in such dreadful trouble and anxiety lately that I have hardly command of myself." She covered her eyes with her hand for a few seconds. We two men looked at each other and waited, trying to appear unmoved. She went on more firmly; she had recovered herself. "Please, please do not think I am ungrateful to you for your kindness in coming here, and so quickly. I really am grateful, and I have every confidence in your judgment. If you wish, or think it best, we can be alone." I stood up, but Mr. Marvin made a dissentient gesture. He was evidently pleased with her attitude. There was geniality in his voice and manner as he spoke: "Not at all, not at all. There is no restriction on your father's part, and on my own I am quite willing. Indeed, all told, it may be better. From what you have said of Mr. Trelawny's illness, and the other incidental matters, it will be well in case of any grave eventuality that it was understood from the first that circumstances were ruled by your father's own imperative instructions. For, please understand me, his instructions are imperative, most imperative. They are so unyielding that he has given me a power of attorney, under which I have undertaken to act, authorizing me to see his written wishes carried out. Please believe me once for all, that he intended fully everything mentioned in that letter to you. Whilst he is alive he is to remain in his own room, and none of his property is to be removed from it under any circumstances whatever. He has even given an inventory of the articles which are not to be displaced." Miss Trelawny was silent. She looked somewhat distressed; so, thinking that I understood the immediate cause, I asked: "May we see the list?" Miss Trelawny's face at once